Okay, so after that quick break, hopefully you have kind of worked on this a little bit. You've kind of rounded this bit off and kind of followed some of the images a little more, and you notice that I've added a few more cross sections into our model, particularly where I need more detail. So kind of around here, so generally rounded sections of the shape, and around the neck. So if I go close here, you notice that I've kind of put a few more in. There's more here than there is like in the entire neck, for example. Now, if I wanted to, I'm not going to do it right now because it's kind of an additional detail. What I could do is if I wanted to start adding these bits in, I could put kind of like a cut here and a cut there and expand that selection out, and do a cut there and a cut there and expand that selection out a little bit. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to have a crack at making the head. So there's kind of, we're going to follow the basic principle, but the first thing I want to do with this is actually get this rough outline, because this shape is considerably more complex than this is. This is kind of pretty much just a squished round shape, whereas this has more detail. So I think it's more important that we shape this and then we produce this shape over here, okay, with that shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to obviously select our model, and we're going to use edge select, and I'm going to take this one line here. So this is kind of the front of our model, as you can see here, and this is where the head's going to kind of connect up onto the neck. On here now it kind of looks a bit weird that the neck goes right into the head, and I guess it's just a feature of the model that here we have the neck kind of go all the way up into the base of the skull, and then the chin come out under it. So sometimes you might not quite need to be so extreme on the neck, but we do on this one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the move controls, and I'm going to do very much like what we did with the other parts of the mesh, and I'm going to just use shift drag to drag this out onto this level here. Now initially we're going to need quite a bit of detail, so I'm just going to do a short drag. We can see that that's only come out this far, and what I'm going to do is I'm not going to hold shift, I'm just going to drag that down a little bit. There we go, give us kind of the rough shape, and that will create that kind of lip there. Again, we might want to add in another ring right at the top here, so we can sort of curve this up in a bit, but we'll worry about that later. So still with this bit selected, I'm now going to work in this area, and I'm just going to try and get some of this detail in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to drag it this way, and then I'm going to let go of shift, and I'm going to just drag it down. Okay, and we can see that we've extruded this big piece now. Don't worry too much about this at the moment, we're just going to follow this, and I'm going to come back over here, I'm going to shift drag out something else. So I'm just looking at that reference image, and I'm seeing how long a line I need before we start needing more points, and then I'm going to hold with shift, so just mouse drag it, and I'm going to do that. Okay, and you can see that we now have this kind of slight shape. Just going to add a little piece in there. We're just going to keep doing this until we get a little bit of a face looking shape. We're going to need a little more detail on the front. This is reasonably flat, we can probably get away with just doing one in there. And so shift drag and then normal drag, shift drag, normal drag, and again you can kind of see why I don't want to do the whole model, because it really is just lots of shift dragging and whatnot. So again, this is probably quite a big piece. I can actually get away probably with doing all of that in one. Although, we'll probably add more data into that point later because we probably want eyes and things, but we can do that later. We're just getting the shape of it. So shift up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just keep doing this until I get all the way around to the back. Feel free to skip this part of the video until I connected it. So on and so on. Let's just get this slow torture over with. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get reasonably close. That's probably pretty much at the base. And now what we need to do is we just need to connect that. So that's actually looking really good, I think. You may disagree, but I'm entitled to your opinion. So what we have now is we actually have this face that's come all the way around the top of the head, and we have the base of the skull. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this edge, and we're going to hold Control and select this edge. So we should have both of them selected now. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to find the Bridge tool, which is next to the Connect tool. And I'm going to click that. And what that's going to do is that is going to quite nicely connect both of our points. Okay, and what I might do is just grab that and even that up a bit. Yeah, that's fine. So now what we have is this shaped line that actually kind of follows this quite nicely. So because we had our reference images all kind of set up and scaled the same, that's the same. And now what we need to do is we need to build this out to this side, right? But that's, as I said, a little bit easier because it's a bit of an easier shape. So we want to change our selection over to border. So border selects the edge of an empty polygon. Okay, we can't select bits like this with it because these have faces and therefore they're an edge of a polygon. Whereas these, yes, they are an edge of a polygon in the sense that they have a face on this side, but they're also a border to a gap. Okay, and much like when we started all the way down here ages ago, and we selected this and we shift dragged it out, we're going to do exactly the same on here. So I prefer normally to use the perspective to actually use the drag tools, but my main focus is going to be on this, so I might actually just kind of make that a little bit bigger so I can keep an eye on this round shape around here as I work in here. So what I want to do is I just want to shift drag that out a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the scale tool, and I'm going to just scale that a little bit. Okay, and I need to be very careful that I don't do too much. And then I'm going to drag it out a little bit more, and I'm going to make sure that I only have these two selected, or all three selected will be fine. But I'm getting a little more on the Z-axis there. That's kind of coming up and down a bit. And because I'm kind of focusing on this one, I can see how that's looking in general. That's actually not looking too bad. If you are having some issues with the scale tool, you might notice that pressing R a few times kind of changes. So now I can't select all of the axes, I can only select two at a time. And now I can, so as I press R a few times, now I can select all of them are individual. So just keep an eye on that, or you can come up here and you can just hold that down. So that's fine. But I want to make sure I've got all four. So again, I want to move it out a little bit, and then go back here and then scale it a little bit. Don't worry too much about the lines for now, but we just want the rough shape. Okay, shall we move this up a little bit? In fact, I'm going to grab this one, move that one up a little bit. So there's lots of kind of small movements. There we go, that's following that a lot better. And that actually looks really good. So we kind of have a small version of the face in the middle. And what we could do is we could clear these all up. We could make this a kind of a round circle, so kind of emulate an ear, but that's kind of all later on. So again, we're going to select the border because we've got this empty shape and we want to select all these edges that border it. We're going to do that, and we're going to come over here and we're going to find the cap tool. So cap just basically adds like a lid onto an empty space. So I'm going to click on that and it's going to make that. So for now, I think that that is actually more than sufficient. And what we're going to do is we're just going to click on the Symmetry Modifier. We're going to kind of look at that, and yeah, that looks pretty good to me. We can see the nose, we can see the chin. We've kind of got these cool little space here for an ear. We've got plenty of space here for what could be like a visor or some eyes or something like that. And generally it fills the space. It follows that. It follows that. It goes down here, and we've got kind of the start of the kind of the loin area. And we're going to work next on connecting these. On this, we just need to have a look at what's going on here. So make sure that I'm just going to clean these up, and then we're going to try and make some legs and some arms. Okay, so you should have been kind of pretty much at about this stage by now. If it doesn't look like this, that's fine. If it looks better, then that's great. And what we're going to do now is we're going to look at this kind of region here, and we're going to try and connect things. Now, what you might be tempted to do at this point is kind of go here and say, oh, I want, you know, an arm here like this, and kind of start connecting that. And you can, but the problem is that if we have a shape like this with lots of different sections in it, and then we put it onto a part of our shape with very few, we end up with a polygon that might have more than 4 sides, which is called an n-gon. Now, whilst this is not a huge problem at this stage, it can cause all sorts of issues later on when we are creating kind of texture maps. When we are animating it, we might get some tearage and all sorts of nasty things. So we kind of want to avoid that. And the way that we're going to do that is we're just going to continue along the same kind of path that we've been doing of extruding. So here we can see that it's about this height. So this kind of arm socket here doesn't really match this point or this point. So the first thing we need to do is add in by using the connect tool, probably at a top and bottom. So we want to. Let's space them a little further apart, and we'll just move them. There we go. So that's probably about it. And what we'll do is we'll take that, and we will now go to this side. So we know we're looking somewhere around here, and if we hold Alt X, hold Alt press X, we can see that this. So we've actually got the shoulder here. We know that the shoulder's a bit bigger. So what we're looking at here is kind of this part. So it needs to be a little bit smaller. So it's probably going to be that region there, I would say. Okay. So these 4 polygons. So we'll just switch to polygon select and take those for. And we'll just kind of do a sensibility check, make sure, yeah, that's probably roughly where it is. It aligns there with there, so I'm going to delete those. And now what we have is we have a free area that we can do a border select on. It's probably roughly the same shape, and we can always right click, go to vertices, and we can sort of start to round this area off a little bit. Not too extreme. We don't want non-uniform kind of areas of our shape. We can already see that, you know, we're getting some weird bits pop up, but that's okay for now. We'll switch back to the border select, and you guessed it, shift drag that out. So just need to move down here. Okay, so that's fine there. It's a little bit high on there, but that's alright, that's okay. What we'll do is we'll just bring this down a bit, and then we'll just grab this and bring that round as well. Can we get a lip cut on that now? So I'm pressing Alt to remove some selections, and there we go. That looks pretty horrific for now, but it'll do. And we'll go back to the border select. So this kind of lines up a little bit with this. And again, I just want to kind of drag that down a bit. There we go. That's okay. So now what we want to do is we want to add more detail, so we're just going to do like a small cut, and we're going to use the same kind of principles that we used to do the head. We're going to kind of shift drag to scale, and then we're going to put in a nice big bit, and we're going wildly off plan here, but that's because it's the perspective. If we drag out far enough, then that will match that. And then I'm just going to finish this off. Make sure to shift drag when you make new edges, and that's looking okay. So we just want a small one here. Okay, now when we had the head, we had a nice open shape. I'm actually just going to scale these down a little bit like that. Make sure that you're not getting stuck on just having two axes. You need to make sure you've got all three, so keep pressing R until that comes around again. And again, we're just going to cap that off. So we've now kind of got like this little bit here, and we've got kind of the bulbous shoulder bit. And now what we want to do is very much the same with the underneath. We want to kind of create a cylinder out of this shape. So if we can sort of drag these around a little bit, maybe start forming a shape that we can cut out. And we're probably going to want to keep a flat edge around here, so we're going to need to add in some more vertices. And we're going to do that by just, let's take these and try the connect tool. There we go, that looks okay. And now we should have some faces that we can take out. I'm going to take out all of those, I reckon. So, and these ones give us a better, rounder shape. And we can border select that again. And, yep, shift drag, a little bit of scale. I can actually move that because it kind of comes out of here a little bit. And we're going to scale it a little more. shift drag over. And at this point I kind of want to you know, use my own artistic license somewhat. You know, don't worry too much if you're kind of slightly off, but I'm consistently off, so that's okay for now. Drag this a little more. So that's probably near the end. Just check this one, make sure that that's not looking too ridiculous. And as you can see here, we've got these vertices going up and down. We're going to need to clean those up a little later, but that is just a time-consuming task. It's not really appropriate to put in the video, because you'd just be watching me do the same thing again and again and again. It'd be very boring, even more boring than it already is. So actually, there we go. That's better. So that's kind of got to make sure that you've got the whole scale on at some point. I think maybe I've missed a bit, so this is going to need rounding out a little bit afterwards as well. There we go. Okay, so now we have a nice arm. I'm just going to extrude a nice little break point there so we can put some extra bits in. And that would be the elbow. And then let's just keep following this down. So plenty of space. And now I'm just going to do a couple of kind of big ones just to get this finished off. So again, we've kind of gone pretty far off map with the schematic, but we'll adjust that later on. Just try to get the rough shape at this point. There we go, that's looking okay to me. Ooh. And yeah, that looks okay to me. And then what we'll do is we'll come in here, and again we're just going to do a little bit so that we can have some extra detail. We're going to shrink this right down because we've got kind of a smaller bit. And there we go. And then again we'll need another connector, so make sure that wherever these kind of more detailed parts are, is that you are adding more vertices in. Okay, and you can, you know, if you need kind of something like this region that I've just generated there, you can always hold shift when you scale, and that will actually create kind of more polys outwards on a plane. You need to be a little bit careful with it, but that way I've created this. Okay, and what I'm going to do is just keep holding shift and scaling this out. And for now I'm not going to bother with the fingers because we're not going to bother with that in this assessment. So if you don't get the fingers done, don't worry about it. Just going to create some clunky hands. Actually, I'm going to undo that because actually what I want to do is just scale this way so that I have like a flat flipper hand. And a little bit this way. That'll be fine. Robots don't need proper hands. And then a nice rounded one. And we're going to cut that off. So it's kind of pretty much at the same height. And if you wanted to, you could most definitely start breaking these apart and creating this finger shape. Or you could even use this side schematic here, and you could use the line tool and kind of make that shape and then add it on. Just be very careful with the amount of sections that you're adding on. Make sure that it's consistent. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to maximize this, and I'm going to check the symmetry. Yeah, generally that's not too bad of an attempt, I don't think. So now what we're going to do is we're basically going to replicate what we did here down here to create the legs. And remember, you only need to do one side. Probably around here would be roughly where the leg connects. So we're going to go ahead and obviously go back to editable poly and start selecting the right region, not that one. And remember to kind of have a look here. Oh, I've got a cheeky selection there. And use, so this is actually a bit wider, so I need to work on that. And maybe add a bit more. Yeah, that looks okay to me, so let's go ahead and sort that. So now what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and delete these edges, these polygons, sorry, and they're not going to. Awesome. Let's just take these. There we go. Okay, don't know what all that was about. And I'm actually, just before we start, I'm just going to take this one, drag that down a little bit, drag this over a little bit, and do this, and just sort of start getting those slightly rounded edges in, because the shape is kind of pretty round, right? It's quite cylindrical, so it's probably a good place to start. And again, border select, so we can select this region here. That looks about right for there. What we're going to do is I'm actually going to use, rather than one of the kind of selections, I'm going to use two. So I'm going to, if I grab that, I can move it in this way. I'm just going to shift drag that out. I'm just going to create that little kind of ridged socket there that can connect to. It means that it gives us a seam to texture around. It means that when we animate anything on the leg that's animating, we have this kind of boundary here before it gets to the body. So hopefully it limits the amount of tearage or kind of influence those areas have. And what I'm going to do is, we've got another one here, so I'm just going to drag that like that, and that looks okay. I remember earlier I said that we can also use the scale tool to extrude. So here I can see that this kind of gets a bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make sure I've got all axes, hold shift, and drag that out a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to see then just drag this like this. Then I'm going to try that again. Make sure I've got all axes. Yeah, that's working okay. So that's kind of the start of it, right? But now what we have is we have an imbalance between here and all the way up here. So what I might want to do is start looking at these points here and start dragging those down until they are of the same height. So I'm going to use, oh, I've switched around. I'm going to use this one to select them, drag that down, and I'm just going to check on both here and here that they're about the right height. Let's just grab this one. Again, looking on there. Don't worry too much if you're coming away from this edge again at this point. We just want these to kind of be a bit flat. There we go, so now we can see that one. And here, if we go, we can just see like that. That's a lot better than what we had. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to grab that and I'm going to just take that all the way down there, and then we can see that this is starting to change shape. So here, and then bring that in a bit, here, bring that in a bit, kind of follow this shape down. So we're a little off here, we might need to move these around, but for now that's okay. I'm going to put one there, and produce that kind of shape, so make sure that that's looking okay on this side as well. So actually, no, not quite. So what we need to do here, so we can start adding in some connections and start building this out. That's okay. I'm just going to grab this and let's grab this one, move it along a bit, got this one, move it along. And that's actually going to need a scale. Make sure that it's not doing too much damage over here. That's okay. And we've kind of got this shape here, that's not too bad. Got this rogue vertex here, so we just need to bring this in. So it's really a lot of just watching what's happening, doing things in a slow process, and kind of constantly trying to just readjust what you've got and whatnot. So that's kind of okay for now. Again, you know, this is just the first pass on it, so we just want the rough shape. So just going to make sure that's all of them. There we go. And then again, I've got kind of another connection, so I just want to add a couple of extra little bits in there, just in case. And then I'm going to do a shift extrude because that comes out a little to start building the leg. So make sure we've got all of that. Here we're going to need to do quite a bit of work on the back to get this shape. For now, that's not too bad. One thing I do want to do is just make sure that these are all the same height again, because they've managed to get themselves out of line. So, what you can do if you want these absolutely perfect is actually select the vertex, and down here we have the X, Y, and Z positions. So I could just copy the Z position of this one, which is 0.422, and I could come here and I could just copy and paste that in, and that way it would, you know, be exactly the same. But as you can already tell, I'm not really fussed about that level of accuracy at the moment, and I'm just going to sort of start to bring these in. It needs to come in a little more. And again, like, so I'm getting that kind of shape. But yeah, right, get the rough shape. And all you're going to do is nice and quick, just drag these, shift drag these, and kind of produce a rough shape. So it's basically the same as what we did with the arm. I'm just going to completely ignore that little kind of all this detail here. get the leg, and now, you know, just check that down a little bit. We're going to need an extra bit of detail here. Then I'm probably going to give it another one, and then kind of start to stretch this out a bit. So now what I'd need to do is either do edge or vertex loop select kind of thing, and then start dragging these out a little bit. And I might want to start taking maybe some of these and do that, or I might want to have a look on this view, so this and that one, and that one. So holding Control. Sorry, my keyboard just had a hiccup there. And then maybe just shift dragging these out. And very much in the same way that we did the head, just kind of do this again and again and again until we get something that kind of resembles the shape of the foot. And this is, I mean, this is going to be pretty horrific, but that's okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, and that's probably about it, and then we come in here and we just need to connect this one and this one, so we're going to bridge those two, we're going to bridge those two, we're going to go ahead and bridge those two. So one thing we need to do is make sure that that's dragged out to the same point, so that's really far behind there, and start creating a more even foot like shape. And we need to start bringing in these areas. Okay, so you kind of just have a play. You might want to even just border select that and sort of scale it in a little bit, and then start creating a rounder foot, and then maybe just kind of drag it out a bit again. So just keep doing that until we have a rough shape. That'll do for now. We'll do that, and we'll just do the same on the other side. So just going to extrude, scale, extrude, scale. So they're not the fanciest pair of Nikes, but you know, it's a foot. It serves its purpose for now. We're really just kind of looking at making a rough shape, and now we're pretty much done. We can now just go to the Symmetry Modifier, and I'm actually just going to go and turn off edge faces for now, so I can see that generally speaking, we need to clean that up, and there's lots of work we can do. We can round this off. You could even go up here and add a smooth modifier to this, which will kind of round off the edges. Try to avoid doing anything drastic like a subdivision. That's just going to add tons more polys. You really don't need them. But once you're at this stage, we're pretty much onto rigging, which will be the next series of videos. And if you've got anything that's even close to resembling this, you've done really well. You should be really proud of yourself. So make sure you save that, and you know, we'll have a look at rigging and starting to animate this humanoid shape in the next video. So thanks for watching.